Not everybody's required to have a specific plan, by the way.
I was trying to look for one in my pocket.
All right, so next up we have Andrea Shorter. And what we'll do is everyone will speak for 7 to 10 minutes. I'm going to be a little strict on time tonight since we've got such a full panel. And then we'll open it up for a discussion with everyone.
Well, I'm originally from the Midwest, so I already talk a little slow, but I'll try to speed it up. And I want to thank the Society for this terrific series. And it's an honor to participate on this panel. And I got to have lunch with Tito because I learned a great deal just from your remarks. And but let me tell you, as Don had mentioned in the introductions, I've been a resident of the Castro now since 1991. And I moved from Riverside, California. I think everyone knows a little bit more about Riverside. Anybody been to Riverside? Been to Palm Springs? You've been close enough to Riverside, California. And I grew up in a little town there called Paris, California. My family moved from Indianapolis, Indiana in 1979. We had enough of the horrific weather conditions over the winters, and my father basically packed up the family and we moved to, well, not Beverly, but to Paris, a little further out. And so I grew up there, and remember having made that trek, and my mom cried basically for the first few days because there were only about 6,000 people that supposedly populated the area, but we somehow were only running into maybe no more than 150 people in our first couple of weeks. But I do remember that feeling of sort of isolation and not really feeling as connected in terms of what is this community about, where are we, where did we land, and how do we make our way. And when I travel not only through different cities of the United States, but certainly, as mentioned before, when Don had called me, a lot of things began to sort of rattle off in my brain in terms of what does it mean for me to live in basically what so many people herald, as Tito had alluded to, sort of as the gay capital of the world, not just the United States, not just California or San Francisco, but it means and it represents so much to many folks worldwide. An interesting thing happened to me, a number of interesting things have happened to me in my travels. I had gone to South Africa a few years back. I had the pleasure of working for the AIDS Memorial Club, and we were invited to participate in some organizing events using the history and using the actual tool of the quilt to educate folks on AIDS awareness. And in one of those, and during that particular venture, I had the pleasure of working with a number of folks from not just in South Africa, but had come worldwide, come from around the world to participate in this effort. The funny thing is that I came upon this young man who actually very small in stature, but very mighty in presence. And he was Indian who had grown up in South Africa, and just one of the greatest queens I've ever met. And he actually used to be a madam for a brothel, and was very active in AIDS awareness and education, and was really one of the most outspoken, in fact, of the people that I have met, really the most outspoken member of our larger community, of the queer community. And we had clearly a great deal of occasion to interact and get to know each other and work with each other and like each other and yell and scream at each other about this and that. And we definitely felt that kinship and that fellowship. You know, through the whole time that I had been working with him, somehow we were remiss in realizing one thing, and that was that, as it turned out, he used to live right behind me in the Castro. I live on 16th Street. I live at 16th between Market and Castro. I've been at that location now for about 13 years. And he lived on Beaver Street. And when I say right behind me, I don't mean he lived on the street somewhere. I mean he lived right behind me. So our backyards were, you know, just divided by a small fence. And so to go all the way around the world, to be in such delight of meeting someone so powerful and magnificent in his advocacy for everyone that is affected by the issue, only to find out that he was actually my neighbor was quite a tremendous event. The significance of that has taken me through other travels as I've gone through. I met with a group of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered folks. Mostly, there were no transgendered folks at that time that we had met. I should make that clear. In Tel Aviv. And the orchestration that it took just to find a spot to meet, just to find a place to quietly and so covertly come together will never leave me. And clearly, as an African American woman, as a lesbian who was living in the Castro, I'm aware. Of course, I live there. I know what the general profile and the perception is of the neighborhood. I feel very much a part of the neighborhood. I do feel that it is my community. And not to say there aren't times that you do feel, I still feel as an outsider, even as involved as I am in some of the political and social justice causes of our city. But nonetheless, as we look to the future, the message that I just wanted to bring tonight, I think really rests on more anecdotal analyses, not as studied as Tito's or I expect some of the other panelists to bring to this evening. But as we move forward, this issue of ghettoization, I personally think that it's something that we have always been contending with. I think it's something that it's not a new phenomenon, and it will not go away. I think it is important to have that geographical space. It is very important not only for the political empowerment zone that it creates. It is not only important for perhaps some of the economic empowerment zone that it creates to an extent. It'll be interesting to see that map and see of those persons that do own shops now that actually reside in the community, etc. But it is important because of what I think it so much represents and symbolizes. We still have many struggles. I think that clearly the issue around Castro for All was a recent one in terms of how how far we've come, but also how far we have yet to go. I think that the next step for the Castro is again really continuing to push on those issues of ethnic and racial diversity. And I have less than 1 minute. And as someone that has lived pretty much in the same spot, has sat on the same stoop, and watched the same trains go by, but have varying neighbors move in and out. It seems on my street for some, I don't know how it worked out this way. On this side of my house are a lot of the old queens that are there. In fact, I don't think there's one woman that lives there except for one. She just moved in there, and I don't know how long she's going to last. And then on the other side is sort of the different families, mostly moms and dads, kids I've seen grow up. But as I've seen more straight couples come in, you want to embrace anyone who comes into the neighborhood, but at the same time too, I do feel that if we're not careful, we're continuing to kind of lose some of the essence of what it means to be queer in this particular community, in this particular city. And not only what it means to us locally, but what it means to people on that international national scale. I think that that is just so important.